I request everyone to kindly open the webcams. Miss Priyanka, could you please open your webcam so that we can begin?
Am I audible to you all?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay.
Anjali, we are starting, okay? If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. It's a beautiful quote quoted by John Quincy Adams. So, with this quote, I would like to begin our talk show named Conversation with Consultants. Good evening, everyone. I am Aditi Jain, Strategic Alliance Advisor of SK Associates and Group, and your host for today's talk show.
Hello everyone, I'm Srishti Singh, the head of public relations at SK Associates and Group. It's my pleasure to host this show with Aditi.
Before we begin our talk show, let me briefly introduce SK Associates and Group. We are an ISO certified management consulting firm registered under the MSMED Act 2006 with the Government of India. Our mission is to provide consulting services to student entrepreneurs globally, covering areas such as compliance, operations, marketing, research and development, human capital strategy, and operations. Our passion lies in helping these budding entrepreneurs bring their dreams to life and contribute to global economic growth.
Entrepreneurship is a catalyst for a change and innovation. It's a powerful force that can reshape industries, transform lives, and make the world a better place. We are committed to supporting student entrepreneurs on their journey, equipping with them tools, knowledge, and networks they need to succeed.
Now, before we begin our show, let's take a moment to introduce our guest for today. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome Advocate Priyanka Kwatra, a lawyer by profession, working as a corporate communication manager at King Stubb and Kasiva Advocates, to this special event. We are truly honored by your presence today, and we are thrilled to have you share this momentous occasion with us.
We welcome you, Advocate Priyanka.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me, Aditi and Srishti, and your platform as well. Very honored to be here.
Ma'am, my first question to you is describe your journey in King Stubb and Kasavia advocates and attorneys.
Sure. So actually, it's King Stubb and Kasiva. So I'm a lawyer by profession, as you all are aware about. I've been in practice for around 4 years now. And this whole shift of being a lawyer to coming into corporate communication, it wasn't very surprising. I got the opportunity and I wanted to take it up. So with King Stubb Kasiva, you guys are aware it's a top tier law firm in the country. And every day, I think since I've been in connection or in contact with them, I've just seen them rise up. So I actually happened to intern here back in the day when I was a student. The first time I interned here was in 2018, 2019, and then I came back in 2020. So I just saw myself working in this firm as a lawyer. But it so happened that this is the third time I'm back, and I got this opportunity. But it is slightly different from what I usually thought I might have done here, which is being a lawyer. So now that I knew the reputation about this firm, I already was in constant touch with everybody, all the associates here. So the shift that I've seen, the growth that I've seen from back in the day to now, has obviously it impressed me. But then coming to this role, I honestly, when you study law for 5 7 years, you don't think about switching and doing something else, right? But for me, it was more than that. It was the opportunity. It was the working culture also that attracted me. All these typical law firms that we work in, we hear XYZ about it. This firm was, it had a very high position, it was always in the limelight to me. So for me to come here and do something so that I could be the face, I got the opportunity to be the face, to make sure that we can do better. So to know that you're the person behind it is kind of a big deal, I think. So even though I didn't think about switching my roles, but when I got to know that there is such a thing and I have the opportunity and the skill set, I just couldn't say no. You know. So for me, King Stuff is like home. because I've been here so many times and I've known them for so many years, I just fit in. It was so natural. You know how it is when you typically join a new company or a firm. The first few days or the first few months is very awkward. And you're always like under pressure that you have to perform well. You're always scared that maybe if I don't do well or if I don't meet my targets, then am I going to be here in the long run? But for me, it was such a blessing, I think, because I knew them, I knew the firm, I knew exactly how they work, and I think I figured out what was needed. And that's where I was brought into the picture, right? And over here, I think with King Stubb, the other thing I really that I was attracted to is, the culture. It's not, it's very, it's, I wouldn't say that, in other law firms, you will always hear people saying, go to corporates, don't do typical law firms because it's hectic. There is no personal life, work balance. So you're always thinking, is this a good idea, irrespective of the pay? But here, I think it is, they know how to balance it. It's about the upper management also. They know what is happening outside and what shouldn't happen here. A lot of women work here, and I think they're all great leaders. So when I see that and I see myself in this, I just think that we're perfect for each other. So with this is how I happen to be placed here in Kingstuff. It's a new role, and I'm already enjoying it.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing these.
Sure.
It was really quite inspiring to hear you. So, what motivated you to specialize in corporate law, and how has the landscape evolved since you started your career?
Um, so with corporate law, it wasn't planned. It was just something I had to pick. Um, it was a casual pick, I would say. Law school itself is for 5 years, and I did BBA LLB. So I chose BBA there. I could have maybe done BA, but the fact that in my head I thought I had more opportunities in the future, so I thought BBA was a great idea. But honestly, I was all the corporate subjects like with Companies Act and everything was I wasn't really that interested when I took it up, to be honest. And I think towards my fifth year, I did internships and I realized that okay, that we have more opportunities. And it so happened that when I graduated, I was the COVID batch. So getting a corporate job that time, or actually getting a job, was a task, and I'm sure everyone must have had their own struggles that way. So for me, I was like, this is 5 years of this, and now when I decide, okay, I want to get into this, there are no jobs. So I didn't start with it already. I got into practice. I worked with a couple of senior advocates here in Karnataka. So I did have a taste of litigation as well, and I liked it. And I think I've everyone says that once you taste it, you don't want to go back. So I saw it, and I saw what I could do, or what my potential was. But then on a practical note, if I put myself in the long run, I couldn't see myself do that. I like the work, no doubt. I've had my own share of fun there as well. But on a practical note, for an individual like me, I wanted to always be, doing things that were more than just, running around courts. It was more on the paperwork side. It was more about how I wanted to. So I'm very passionate about startups. So if you gave me a startup, I would love to execute it. I would love to give you ideas and legal advice on it. So when I saw myself into that direction, I kind of just thought that what, maybe it's time to find a new role. So I did my practice for a while, and then I happened to start working for a firm, a corporate company. And then the beauty of it was something else for me. So that's how I really realized that I am good with these subjects. I am good with such subjects and such topics, and that's how I got inclined. And thing in my whole journey with corporates, I've also happened to work with a lot of startups. I've had my own startup. I have built it. I've executed. I've given legal advice. I've done all of that. So I think this is where I fit in perfectly. And that's how I got very carried on. And I decided that if I'm doing law, this is which area I'm specializing in.
Thank you for highlighting it.
Ma'am, my next question to you is, what advice do you have for corporate lawyers looking to transition into a role focused on corporate communications?
Right. A very good question. Actually, this is my favorite from the list. There is, I think, if you, now that I'm in this position, working in corporate com, there is a lot of a lot of similarities between you being a lawyer and doing this role. The first thing is you have to be a great communicator. I mean, that goes without saying, it's in the name. So even a lot of people think that lawyers are only meant to talk. It's not the case. Lawyers are also meant to listen. I think it's 70% listening and 30 of you talking. That is how it should be. It's not that you just keep talking. So it's a relationship that you're building between you, the party, or the client, or the other individual. And the same goes with corporate com. So if your communication skills are great and you know how to get your work done, I think that is what is putting you ahead in any career. In fact, in for a person like me, from law or from corporate law to this, it honestly isn't that big of a jump. Honestly, it's more like I was made to do this. For me, my skill sets were communication, listening. I think I am okay with negotiations as well. I enjoy getting on the table with someone, trying to have that convincing power. If you want to get your work done, these are things any I think a lawyer also is should be good at. And for me, corporate jobs are most likely to be sitting on your desk or moving around in offices rather than you're always going to the court, right? So when I saw that, the work was great. But for a person like me, who's been told that I do a lot of public talks, I have good relationship building, and I love networking, I think I wanted to use my skills and come up. And when I say up, I mean I wanted to be the face of something, come out, be on the stage. So I think that is what was lacking for me as a lawyer. I just couldn't come out and be myself. But in corporate com, it's more like PR as well. You are the face, or you are the person who's representing the firm. So basically, a lot of the reputation is also on you. It's a big responsibility. Now, how does that come to you if you have those skill set? And since this is a law firm, KSK is a law firm, and I come from a legal background, we were just like fitting in together. So I think if somebody wants to transition, it's not at all a bad role. I think the career opportunity, the growth here is immense. You are going to be in the limelight, so you have to be ready that your moves are going to be tracked, and whatever you're saying and doing, you should be well aware about it. On a daily basis, you will be interacting with a lot of people outside. So basically, you're going to be talking to your higher management in your firm, and you're going to be talking to people outside. So your pitch has to be great, your negotiation has to be great. You should know what you're doing. So if somebody in the future wants to say that, okay, I don't want to be a lawyer, I want to be more out, I'm a very outgoing person, very socializing, and I can get the work done, then corporate com is a great opportunity. So if somebody wants to consider one, then this should be it for sure.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing these insights.
So, what are the most significant challenges you have encountered in your career and how do you overcome them?
Um, well, honestly, law school, from me starting law school to now, has been a long journey. Um, a lot of challenges, I think, have come and gone, but I don't think that they were something that I want to highlight, because these are challenges and everyone has certain things they go through. But, being a first generation lawyer, that is definitely one. I do not have anybody in my family or relatives who's a lawyer. So, in college, from me finding internships for myself, I think that itself is a challenge. A lot of people make it through references, but unfortunately, I didn't really have that. For me, it has always been me going out, stepping in the field, and finding something for me. And I think I've done decently okay at that, because I've done like 15 internships. So somehow I made it through, and I'm happy about that. But that itself, in law school, you do get a taste of how it's going to be and what you should be prepared about. um, I could have either stayed back home and enjoyed, or I could have gone out and tried to do something that would have benefited my future. you know that was one. And as it is, when you get into the industry, you're stepping in, it could be either litigation, it could be corporate, whatever it is, you should know that you are going to have a little more tougher time than the others because you're new in this. And there are its pros and cons as well. You might not know a lot of things internally that maybe your parents would have because they're lawyers. So you need, but once you fit in, you are in. And then there is a lot of hard work anyone anyway has to do. And I think the second thing is about this industry is a little male dominating. I believe in gender equality, but sad reality is that this has happened, with me. So for me, to see myself coming up, it has taken a little time. It has taken a lot of effort. But as long as you know you're strong on your ground, nothing will break you. For example, I remember this one instance when I was practicing, and my office only had male associates. But they did understand and realize that I have good communication and I am very passionate about going to the court, doing my arguments, and I did that. I'm not saying I didn't get a chance at all, but I wanted to be out more because I thought I could do as good as they could do, although they were much senior. But I don't know if I should use the word insecurity because it was there. And I was not let out much because I was a woman. And they thought that, it's a lot of running around in courts. Maybe you should just stay back in the office. And that hit me. Okay. I realized that I was not meant to sit in the office. And I don't even think that gender has anything to do with this. I mean, I'm not concerned about it and I'm willing to go out all out and do what it takes to be there. I wanted to be seen and heard and recognized in the court by the judges. But the opportunity, it wasn't just coming. So I made sure rather than running away from it, I stood there and I tried to do what I could. And that's how I think I've got here. Because look, in this industry, there are a lot of great women and men. I don't see any difference at all. But women, as we are multitaskers, we have a lot of potential. You just need to give us a chance and an opportunity, and you will see us do better than anyone else. And that's why we have great women leaders as well today. So this is one of the challenge I think that had really hit me to do better, and I'm glad it happened.
Exactly, very well said. Thank you, Miss
And
Priyanka.
in fact, not just that, I'd like to add on one more
Hmm.
thing. When you're also running a startup. So when I started my own startup back in the day, um, I also wanted to go for VC. I wanted to get more funds. So when you are going into that market, um, they don't want to take you that seriously. They want to take the men or the guys with you in the team. This actually happens a lot. And to know that somebody is a founder or a CEO and you have a list of men working for you, sometimes those men are also a little like insecure. They think twice, which is not good. But then it is what it is. You end up proving yourself, you get respected. And once they know your capability, then they will trust you. So I think my advice for women also on that front, in any profession actually, is that don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to take time, but that's the challenge, and don't break down.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, so the next question to you is, how do you approach negotiations and what tips do you have for negotiating successful outcomes in the corporate legal context?
So all this time I was mentioning negotiations and communications to you guys. Um, I think when you're communicating with someone, you don't just have to communicate or talk to them, to let them know what you're saying. A lot of people don't even like listen to you when you're speaking. Have you heard there are those type of people who just speak for the sake of saying, whether it makes sense or not. It's the quantity but not the quality. But there are also people you will see in your group who are just quiet and they will say one line and that will make so much sense. So I think if you know, it's quality rather than quantity. That's what I also believe in. In fact, before I get to the negotiating part, there's a small thing I'd like to share. There was this time back in the day when I was representing my client, and the opposing counsel argued for like 20, 30 minutes straight. And I did just for 5 minutes. And we got the matter in our favor. But then when I raised the invoice to the client, right, when we did that, he was just like, you can't be charging so much because you've only spoken for 5 minutes. This is absurd. you know and that's when me and our senior, we try to tell him that, listen, it's I could go on for 1 hour without making sense if that made you pay us, but this is not how it is. We know what to say, how to say, and get the work. You say 40 minutes or 50 minutes doesn't mean you're making sense. So the 5 minutes, those two lines, it got us our work, so how does it matter? So this is a very common mentality. Even when you're negotiating, it doesn't mean that you have 1 2 hours with the party or the client, and the quantity of the time decides whether you're getting the deal or not. That's not how it is, and it shouldn't be that way. I think when you're doing this whole process, a lot goes in. And I'm not just talking in the legal context here, I'm even talking generally, even if I'm doing corporate com. And that's also why I'm here. That's one of the skills that you should have before you're starting to negotiate with the party or with the person for whatever reason. You should know where you are currently standing. Where are you now, and where is that other person? If I'm calling an XYZ person today from my firm for my corporate com part, and I should know who I'm calling, at least a little bit of a brief background. That gives you an idea about what and how you should pitch something to them. Because you never know, you might have a whole set of idea before, but when you call them, the person's response is so different that you can't see the second pitch at all. And that's just pointless. And a lot of people, even at bigger positions, they will give you just a time slot of like maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. So okay, you only have this much time, and now it's up to you how you can make the best of it. And maybe if the first conversation does not go as expected, there will be no second conversation. So I think knowing a little background about the person you're speaking to, the product, service, or the reason you're actually reaching out to that person, and then coming to the fact that when you are on the table with them, so you need to understand when you're doing such a process, both of you are not on the same page, and that's why you're here. And often, I think the only thing people get stuck on one point is the price. People are always, you must have realized this in any profession, it all comes down to the pricing or the invoicing. And people just are stuck on it. And then a lot of people give up and say yes or no because they think this is make it or break it. But what they are not realizing is this is not the only factor that you should do this for. The whole idea about how the quality might turn out, you're so missing out on that. So I think when you are doing such an arrangement, one has to be prepared about it is not going to be easy, but don't hold on to one point. And I think another very essential element that someone told me earlier was that don't go on the table and pitch yourself first, towards the closing of the deal. Let's hear the other party. Let's see what they have in store, and then probably come up with varied options for them rather than just one. And a yes or a no is not a good idea either. So, probably asking them or pitching yourself in such a manner which gives them varied thoughts in their head. It should never be a yes or a no. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of this? You could have just done a phone call or an email. And that's another thing. A lot of people think doing such an arrangement on phone calls or emails is okay, but it's not. There is nothing better than a face to face, one on one you're doing with them because it's also relationship building. In this whole process, you're knowing the person, you're having small talk, a little casualty. I think it also helps. I've seen people write mails and back and forth emails. It makes no sense to me. And then it doesn't work out, and then they're lifting the call, and then they're calling the person and negotiating. That is such a bad idea. If I can go somewhere, I will travel and I will make sure I see the person, have a small chat, and I will make sure that we have more even in the future if things don't work out right now. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to ask you one more thing. Since you are communication corporate manager in one of the top leading law firm. So, what's your advice to the students who are planning to make career into this?
Into corporate com, like I was earlier stating it as well, it doesn't matter if I'm a lawyer and if I'm coming from a legal background. Of course, that has given me a lot of weightage because a lot of skill sets that we lawyers have also comes into this. And the way that we as lawyers think is a little different, I guess, from the other people. Lawyers are supposed to figure it out when everybody else can't. But even if you're from a different domain and one day you think you want to get into such a role, then just a few basic elements that are present in your skill set would help. Communication is the key. If you're shy, if you're reserved, if you're not good at public speakings, or appearing in a big group of people and putting your ideas, then it would be a little difficult task for you. So even if you want to get into this sector, then I guess working on these skill set is one. Starting with a small group of friends, putting your thought out rather than taking what the audience or public is telling you and then working on it. You put yourself out. People sometimes think that putting their ideas out might not be a good idea because people will make fun of them. It's awkward. What if they're wrong? What if it's a stupid idea? There is no stupid idea. You have to take the risk of putting it out to know what they think like, and that will give you confidence over time as well. So confidence is the second thing there. And be a good listener. A lot of times we are speaking, we think we're making sense, but maybe we're not reading between the lines of what the other person is saying. Your response needs to match that person's conversation rather than you saying something else which is so irrelevant. So think before you speak less and hear more. That's one. And this role comes with a lot of moving around. I want to use the word flying around because you are all over the place. You should know if you have to be there to get your work, you have to be there. There is nobody who's going to tell you what to do, or no one's going to say you figure it out. There will be instances where, yes, you have to figure it out because this is a responsibility as well. But the fact that you are willing to think more, be creative out of the box, there is no rule here. There's no rule book or playbook here. It is as and how it goes. Go with the flow. So you willing to take the risk to go out, network, confidence, communicate, speak less, talk more, network a lot, and be outgoing. And if you have that, I think you will have the confidence, and then this is a great role for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, can you share any memorable or unexpected moments from your career that had a lasting impact on your perspective as a corporate lawyer?
Um, well, I think I've had so many smaller ones. I wouldn't say in corporate as a corporate lawyer as such, but when you work for larger corporates or organizations, you so for instance, if I'm sitting right here by myself, I might think that I'm the best, and it's good to believe that you are the best. But when you happen to work for bigger organizations and there are bigger hierarchies, you understand that there are a lot of people you are going to be answerable to. So every move over there is going to be tracked. So when I was working, in one of my roles earlier, I was of the thought that I actually know quite a bit. But when you are working with them, you understand that these people who are there are here and much experienced than you are. So you have to understand, listen, and then act upon it. A lot of times I must have thought that I am doing what I think is right. But the fact that I can't ignore that micromanagement is also a real thing. And if that comes into the picture, you should know how to save yourself first. Um, for me, I think when I was, like I said earlier in one of the roles, I kind of saw a lot of lag or discrepancy because I think I know it all, but maybe I don't. But how do I make sure that I do? It was a challenge because no one's going to come here and spoon feed you and teach you. This is not the time for that. And as a lawyer, you don't get, you are done. Your schooling is done. You have to figure it out. And if there is a situation that puts you or your position at stake, you should know how to come out of it. But I think for me, back in the day, I didn't know that. I wasn't told, and I was still learning. So I think because of how the environment was, I was more concerned about me rather than it should have been us. So I think when you're working in such corporates or organizations, what you say and your behavior also counts a lot. You don't just think about yourself, but you think about the long term as well. And I think I've been a lot of people I talk to, a lot of people who are still coming up in the career or very freshers, they don't realize this. You can't do the same thing you're going to do in smaller firms or in smaller chambers. This is different. So unless you're ready to also listen to what's being told, then don't get into it. So yeah, that's a little highlight and a very big learning that I've had, which I'm going to remember.
Great. Thank you for highlighting.
Ma'am, the next question is, what role does legal risk assessment play in your decision-making process when communicating on behalf of the company?
Actually, I lost you a little bit there, Srishti. Would you mind repeating that?
Uh, what role does legal risk assessment plays in your decision-making process when communicating on behalf of the company?
Okay, got your question. That's a very good one. Like I was stating earlier, that as a lawyer, you are built a little different than everybody else. A lot of your words or the way you communicate will not match with people because the way we think is a little different. We always calculate our risk. We have a list of pros and cons in our head before we are doing anything. I think in my personal life also, I happen to do that a lot, and sometimes it goes haywire. It's a drawback. Um, but I'm sure that whatever we've learned in law school and the way we analyze situations is great. But we should know where we should not use them. You can't always have this kind of thinking in your personal life also, because you need to understand the person is not built the same, and it could create barriers. I'm not saying it's hard for us to not do that, but I think communication is the best. So when I started working here at my firm, it was a little different because I come from that background, and this is a form of the same background. But for me, to analyze things in this particular role, I'm not saying it was difficult, but the whole procedure or the transitioning was a little hard. So every time I'm doing something here, I'm trying to reach out to people. I have realized when I tell them I'm of the same background, it makes the work a lot easier because they know what you're saying. But then there are times people don't like it because they want to talk to someone on a very generic sense, or probably they want someone who's more chill. If you know what I'm saying. So I think, but then I try to put myself in that other person's colors when I'm talking to them now, which really helps. Because if I'm going to go with the mentality that I'm a lawyer and this is how I think and you should know, it might not go well. So if I'm talking to some person who has a very different vibration, then I will give into his or her vibration. But when I'm trying to make a decision making here, which is going to be beneficial for my firm, then I make sure to think on both the sides, how that person must be thinking and how I should do and what's the best for my firm. So that is how it has, and it is very helpful.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing these insights.
So, how do you handle sensitive information disclosure, ensuring compliance with legal requirements, and maintaining public trust?
Everything now has become, there is technology, it has boomed over the years. If you see back in the day, even if when we were studying, we were in law school to now, technology has bloomed, flourished so much, and everything is not the same typical black and white. We had to do so many things manually. There are softwares which are actually in place now. It does make your work easier, no doubt, like with extensive contracts and all of that. But that doesn't mean that your responsibility of due diligence stops there. Technology has come up so much, so one should understand that all of these tools, they're designed by us. But if you are not taking good care of them or not doing your due diligence, then that's going to backfire too. Data privacy, for example. So we are sharing out the information. We know that it's making our life or our work easier, but then that comes with a big cost as well. And that's when legal documentation also comes into the picture. So I think when we are doing such an arrangement, when we know that technology is here, you need to understand how, as a lawyer, you're using your skill set, what you really need that for, what you're sharing, what has to be held back. Because you can't just, I'm not saying don't trust technology at all, we build that so we know how it works. But you can't go out in today's generation, even generally, you can't go out and put everything out there. There are consequences, because once it stays there, and then the drawback of that is something you're going to suffer. So I think sharing information, or handling such tools, you should also be very responsible. You should know what you're doing, what it is, it really necessary. Because we have a lot of these tools even now for contract management, for example. They are very, very helpful. You don't have to sit and do that manual work like before, because it's too technical. A lot of the big firms have it. But again, there goes practice. First of all, you're trained how to use these tools, and every organization has their own tools. It's not just that you sit on your laptop and you know what to do. But again, if you are not doing or entering that information correctly, carefully, then that's on record, and then that's a huge deal breaker. And then the way you're sharing it, the kind of exposure it has, it makes a lot of, your firm can make a huge loss. So yeah, I think technology is there, but we need to be more aware about what we're doing and how we're using it.
Exactly, well said.
Ma'am, so my next question to you is, can you discuss any notable trends or shifts in the corporate legal landscape that you find particularly interesting or impactful?
Srishti, I lost your second half again. You might have to repeat that
Okay,
for
okay,
me.
okay. Ma'am, can you discuss any notable trends or shifts in the corporate legal landscape that you find interesting or impactful?
Okay, yeah, so I think this is very similar to the question before that I've answered with technology. Um, Law itself has changed. It's not the same that, section 9 of this, section 10 of this, and that's about it. Even when a client comes to you, he thinks that you're supposed to give him advice on spot. That happens sometimes, but it's not possible today to do the same. Not necessarily. If my client is coming to me and he's asking me for an advice on divorce or something, I can tell him the procedure. But again, how is the matter in detail? Sometimes lawyers say we'll get back to you. Now, if you look at corporate, okay, or you're looking at some matters like there, it's now, earlier it was much easier. It was all black and white on spot. You can do it. It was easy. But now, because we have technology, we have so many new things. Even like things are flourishing. So today, it's not always easy for you to give them on spot advice. Even we need time to go back, do our homework, due diligence, be in touch with legal updates, current affairs, and then give them the advice. So it has definitely evolved, flourished. I would say for better, but at the same time, personally, there is also a little bit of fear that how far can we go? We don't want to go too far where our need in the market is not there anymore. So I think it has its pros and cons, no doubt, but it has definitely evolved, and I think technology is playing the biggest role. But I just hope that it doesn't take away our need here in the market. And then, I heard somebody say the other day, I wish we didn't have judges because they have so much load. I wish we could just have had tools who can just give the judgments on spot. And I just didn't think it made sense. You need that personal touch, that human touch there also. You can't just say that it sounds easy to you as the common man. And I'm not just talking about our bread and butter would go, but I'm also saying that human touch is needed, and that's why this whole procedure was built. Imagine taking away that essence and giving judgments. Nobody would be happy. It wouldn't even be fair, I think. So it has definitely come up, but let's see how what the future has to hold for us.
Thank you so much for the highlights, ma'am.
No problem.
So, what strategies do you employ to manage and prioritize multiple legal matters simultaneously?
Um, See, everyone I think has their own strategy. Okay, everybody is built different. Everybody has their own set of um, own set of skill sets. So I think there is no hard and fast rule. I also don't have it all the time. Maybe if I'm handling a lot of matters, yeah, there is a lot of pressure. Even now, sometimes when I have in a day, I don't even know, I can't even track how many phone calls I'm making or getting. And it may just sound like phone calls, but there is a lot goes behind it as well, mentally, physically. The kind of conversations or communications I'm having with them, are they short term, long term? Are they really in detail, or are they just casual conversations? So it takes a lot, but I cannot track it. But what I can maybe do is be prepared for it. And I think I look at my set of priorities. I'm not looking. I think for me, it's not what I think I can do first, but I'm thinking like from my firm's perspective, what has to be done first. I think I will follow the priority list. If something has to be done on a shorter notice, then I want to make myself. I want to prepare myself that mentally I can do this first because that is needed first. But if there is no such thing, then I'm going to go about by the tougher ones because I personally want to finish the harder ones first and then come down and relax. That's how I look at things. And when I was practicing as well with simultaneous matters, um, I think that's with my senior, if I was working with, he would also want the same because that's what I was taught. It's a lot of juggling back and forth, but take one at a time, give importance to one at a time, and don't take. There are times that I have actually put all the matters together in one place and try to do everything. It's not been a good idea. Even when you have exams in college and you have no break between them, so what do you do? People say I'll do this subject today, the next time I will do the next subject, and no, for me it's not like that. I will maybe dedicate one day for each matter or each subject, get through that, and then go to the next one rather than mixing them all.
Exactly. Thank you.
Ma'am, so my next question to you is, what achievements in your legal management career stands out to be you as the corporate communication manager at KSK Advocates and Attorneys?
So this is, I'm assuming, more about my achievements and how I've used them here, right, Shashi?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I think I've done a lot of here and there in my career too. I've enjoyed it. It's not been a straight journey. It was totally not planned. One that totally stands out for me is, apart from me having my startup, I was the CEO for another startup, a legal tech startup. And this startup was run by tech guys. The founder was a tech guy, but they wanted to make something in this industry. So honestly, when I heard about this and I heard about the model and their pitch, I thought it was great. The idea is there, but then how do we execute it? So then I was interviewed, I was asked whether I'm interested. And the reason why they took me is, I guess, of these skill sets that I have today. Because I was very young back then. So it's not that I had experience in executing a startup or being a CEO earlier. And they wanted somebody young and fresh with creativity who at least knows law or the subject. So I was taken in, and I definitely enjoyed it. I was getting coached by IIM professors every single day. I had access to all the material. So although I wasn't enrolled in IIM, but I had the exposure and the chance to learn and use that in the startup. So that was definitely a big boom for me. It led open doors to more new opportunities. And apart from just doing law there, I did everything else. Like they say, right, if it's your startup or your business, you do everything. There is no hard fast rule, and there is no you need to know how to mitigate risks basically. So I did it all, from marketing to uh, doing what I need to giving, you know, giving making decisions for them, understanding what how the public is seeing, interacting with so many other lawyers in the country, hiring, firing, working in different domains. That did give me a big push. And then, when I come up to my legal career after that, it made me feel like I can do things on my own accord now. And I think personally, who doesn't like doing things that way rather than being told, unless it's on matters related to your knowledge or more exposure. And that currently for me here is working out so well because the culture of my current firm, it's I think is very vibrant. And I think from what I have seen, it's very positive in the other law firms I've been a part of, because you know how the culture in law firms can be very hectic. There is no timing. There is, yeah, that goes on and off everywhere, I guess. But here, when I see the culture, I can at least, I'm not saying make my decisions. Of course, I will go to the higher management for that. But I have the liberty to use my skill set and to see what is right and wrong for them. I can do my own pitch. So when I see that, that really pushed me, and I like working myself rather than being told all the time or with micromanagement. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. Yes, if that answers your question, Srishti.
Yeah, ma'am, it totally answers my question. Thank you so much.
So, how do you think a person can strike a balance between work life and personal life?
Of course. I don't think I have the best of it, to be honest. I do try every day that I can have better sleep and eat on time, which does not really happen. But I wouldn't say it's a pattern I've created, but as you get older and then you get more responsible, you understand this is important. It is very important. When you're young, you have that zeal, that hunger to do more. And even I used to think back in law school, I could just stay up for hours. I was so enthusiastic about everything. And I didn't think that, more than 4 or 5 hours sleep really matters because I don't sleep much. I didn't understand that until I started working. And then when you are coming up in your career, you realize that the better you sleep, the better you work the next day, and the better you eat. And I don't really encourage youngsters or people even our age to just stay at home. I make it a point now that whenever I get offs or whatever weekends I have, I want to at least step out of my house. Although I know I'm not in my office, I'm at home. I want to go out in the fresh air, refresh my mind, because I know I'm going to go back to work the next week. You can either go. People love. People are very healthy nowadays. People like going to the gym. People like swimming. If that's a part of your routine, keep doing that, but do something that really relaxes your mind and soul. Sometimes people do yoga. I've been told that that's very relaxing. I try to do it, but I don't think it's my thing. So what I do is I just make sure I can catch up with some folks on the weekend. Do something that you're not doing every day, and make sure you're doing your routine as it goes. Have a routine actually. Sleep well, eat less, and make sure that you're not doing office at home and vice versa. That's very important.
Thank you.
Ma'am, so my next question to you is, looking back on your career, what major professional obstacle did you have to overcome while working as a junior attorney at Afsant, and how did it affect your development as a lawyer?
Um, this was one of the most remarkable corporates I've worked at. I come from litigation, right? So there, you understand when you're working for small firms versus bigger firms, there is a difference. You are exposed to a lot more. You have to be prepared. It's not just in terms of knowledge, but you need to understand how the culture is, how you make relationships with everyone. Um, a lot of people tell me that it's not that big of a difference. Go back to litigation, or why did you have to be there, and what made you stay for so long? But for me, and the hierarchy of every firm is also different. So if I'm a junior here, I could be senior elsewhere, and I don't think that's important. What is more important is what you're learning, what exposure you have. Um, for me, working at that organization, it was not Indian. So It is an American based consultancy. So it was a change from how I was working for just Indians to working for Americans. There is a difference in the culture. People are different. The way they talk, they're different. The way we Indians and the way we think versus the way they think is different as well. So you can't always tell them. You have to understand their needs as well. So that really helped my communication for one, which I was always told. I like taking up responsibilities. That's what I realized as well. And
Mr. Sumit, sorry to interrupt.
all
Yeah,
right.
please continue.
Yeah, so a lot of other skill sets were also analyzed back in that role. For example, I was told I was good with number crunches, which I also didn't know. So it came with so many other things as a lawyer. When other people couldn't figure it out, it came to us. And I realized I didn't even know I was good at these things. So it did definitely boost my whole working, the way I work, the way I function, the way the work was. I never did that work before in my life. Even, for example, if we're making contracts, we we as Indians, I'm not saying that we have one particular format. You can even Google it and have a format, but the way we think, the way we draft them, and the way the language and the way Americans draft is so different. Some people even have a communication barrier, but then when you're drafting it, you will see there's a lot of difference. The way they think, our priorities on that contract is different versus them, apart from the general TNCs. So when I saw that and I try to inculcate that in my practice or in my area today, it is a plus point. And I've already learned how people in different countries function. So for me to, and right now as a corporate in this particular role, it is easier because I know how at least certain people in the market think and what they look at us as Indians like.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing.
So, based on your experiences at OP Jindal Global University, where you have completed your master's degree in corporate and financial law, so what materials or instruments would you suggest to aspiring legal professionals for self education and skill development?
I think this should be on everybody's list when you talk about skill development. Um, I honestly didn't think about doing a master's to begin with. Like I said, I was the COVID batch and the market was bad. But I did want to study more. I still think about maybe I should do a PhD later. I'm not, for me, studying is just something I like, knowing more, learning more. And honestly, getting into one of the top law schools is not easy, especially that shift from a private to this big one is not easy. Um, but again, I think it's not just about your marks or your CGPA. It's more to do with how you are as a person, your personality, your skill set. When you get interviews in such top law schools, you have to be very smart, very out there. They don't want to know what you know in which subject. That's not it all. Because you are anyway have an entrance. You're cracking that. But what do you know more? Why should we take you, not the others? Because there are going to be people way better than you in academics anyway. But why you? So I think even if you're not studying anymore, you're working, you have to build yourself every day. These are some things that is there in this is your box. You don't open that box when it's not needed, and you don't grow that box, you don't increase the size of the box with everybody, with what the world wants. You do it because you know that this is needed right now and you work on yourself. So I think that's what I did. And that was a big break for me in my career, getting into that law school. And it was very different from where I come from. So to understand and realize how technical it was as well, you that really helps. So, and I think the name, the brand name also helps to some extent, but I wouldn't say that that is everything, because I wasn't in an NLU. So back then the mentality was you're from a non NLU, so you won't be a good fit. That's not true. You can have brighter candidates in a private as well. It doesn't matter. So that's why whatever you are, whatever you're building in all those 5 7 years of law school is what's going to push you rather than the only brand.
Exactly, well said. Thank you.
And so my next question to you is, how do you define success personally and within the context of KSK, how success perceived or measured?
For me, success is not necessarily money. I used to think it's the position first. I'm a manager here, and I like that name. It sounds great, no doubt. But as you grow older, I think you also become wiser and you realize it's not just the position either. I have realized one thing: what am I taking back home? I'm not talking about money again. I'm talking about how I feel. Am I happy there? Because you can make a lot of money somewhere and still go back home and cry, or you can be of a great position and maybe still make the same amount of money or maybe even more and still go back home and cry. If I'm not happy, I don't feel happy or good working there, then I don't think you're entirely successful. Of course your package and your position matters, but that will eventually come to you if you are happy, because then you perform better. So this is how I look at success for me today. And there are people at my age who are doing way better than me. There are also people who are of my age and who are still starting off. So I would like to see myself in position with people who do better than me, so that I can be like them.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing. So moving ahead, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Advocate Priyanka, Corporate Communication Manager, KSK Advocates, for being our guest today at Conversation with Consultants. Your presence and engagement help to make it a success. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, Srishti. Thank you, Aditi.
Even I would like to thank Advocate Priyanka Kwatra for her participation as a guest speaker at our event Conversation with Consultants. Thank you for providing insight into your inspirational journey as a corporate communications manager. Further, we would also like to thank our audience for listening patiently throughout the event. Thank you everyone for joining with us today and hope that everyone has gained some knowledge from this event.
Looking ahead, we are excited to announce that our next episode of Conversation with Consultants will be focused on how success begins. We hope to reach out to you to know more about our event and its details. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media. Until stay connected. Goodbye and have a great day.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining with us today.